Welcome to The Explainer. We all love Singapore. It's our home. But what happens when our home is under threat from something like climate change? Well, today we're going to tackle a huge $100 billion question. How exactly do we pay to protect our island for the future?
All right, let's dive right in. Think about it. When your entire country is a low-lying island, protecting it from rising seas and crazy weather, well, that's not just another public works project. No way. It's a massive, massive task. And it's something that affects every single one of us.
So, to build the kind of defenses we're going to need, it's going to take some seriously clever planning and, you guessed it, a whole lot of money. We're literally talking about building our protection from the waves, and a big part of that comes from our savings.
Okay, so what exactly are we up against here? Because this isn't some problem for our grandkids to worry about in the distant future. Oh no, the threats are very real. And we're already starting to see the signs getting closer and closer to home.
Okay, get this. We're facing a future where sea levels could rise by up to 5 meters. To put that in perspective, that's high enough to completely swallow a double-decker bus. On top of that, we're also looking at unbearably hot days, way more powerful storms, and even big disruptions to where our food comes from.
And there are basically two main ways to fight climate change. First, you've got mitigation. Think of that like trying to fix a leaky pipe to stop the problem from getting worse. But then there's adaptation, and that's our focus today. Adaptation is about accepting that some water is going to leak and putting buckets down to catch it. It's all about dealing with the effects we just can't avoid.
So, since we're focused on adaptation, the next question is pretty obvious, right? How much is all this protection going to cost? Well, the answer comes with a price tag that is so big, it's honestly kind of hard to wrap your head around. Just picture it for a second. Our entire coastline, everything from East Coast Park all the way to Jurong Island, defending every single meter of it from the rising sea. Yeah, the government has run the numbers, and the cost is just mind-boggling.
$100 billion. That's a 1 followed by 11 zeros. Let that sink in. And get this, that's the long-term estimate just for holding back the sea. That doesn't even include the money we'll need to deal with extreme heat or making sure we have enough food.
So, a number that huge naturally brings up an even bigger question. It's the one we asked right at the start. Who on earth is going to pay this bill? And this is where it gets really tricky, The easy answer is to just say, oh, the government should pay for it. But wait a minute, where does the government get its money? From us, the taxpayers. And that money is already stretched pretty thin, paying for all the other important stuff, like our schools, our hospitals, and of course, handling huge unexpected crises like the COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, the government does have a plan. You can kind of think of it like a national piggy bank that has a few different compartments. First, there's a special fund set aside just for coastal and flood protection. Then there's the option to borrow money for these massive, long-term projects. And finally, as a last resort, there's the option of dipping into our country's deep savings, the national reserves. But that's really only for true emergencies.
And this leads to a really important question about, fairness. Think about it. The seawalls we build today are going to protect Singapore for the next 100 years. So is it really fair for taxpayers today to foot the entire bill? Or should some of that cost be shared with future generations, like your generation, and maybe one day your kids, since you'll be the ones benefiting too?
Well, the government's view on this is pretty clear. The Minister for Sustainability and the Environment, Grace Fu, has said that businesses should pay for their own tailored protection. Basically, it's a team effort. The government will handle the big, foundational protection for everyone. But businesses, say on the coast, they'll need to chip in and pay to protect their own specific buildings and operations.
So the big takeaway here is that we can't just rely on the government's wallet to solve everything. To actually afford this, we're going to have to get super creative and find some really smart ways to fund our future. Okay, so one of these smart ideas is something called blended finance. It's actually a pretty cool concept. The government puts in some money first to get a project started and show that it's a good, safe idea. This makes private companies feel way more confident about investing their own money too. And boom, suddenly you have a much bigger pot of money than the government could have come up with on its own.
But here's another idea, and this is where things get really interesting. What if we build things that can do more than one job at the same time? Things that can actually help pay for themselves?
Okay, check this out. A perfect example is the Smart Tunnel in Kuala Lumpur. When a big storm hits, this massive tunnel acts like a giant drain, pulling all the dangerous floodwaters safely away from the city.
But on dry, sunny days, it's a normal toll road for cars. So the tolls people pay help to cover the tunnel's cost. It protects the city, and it earns money. How smart is that?
And guess what? Singapore is planning something just as clever. It's called the Long Island Project. The idea is to reclaim new land off the East Coast, which will act as a huge barrier against rising seas. But here's the cool part. This new land won't just be a boring seawall. Nope. It's going to be a brand new place for people to live and work and hang out, with new homes and parks. And all the value from that new land can help pay for the whole thing.
So, when you boil it all down, protecting Singapore from climate change, well, it's not just the government's problem to solve. It's a massive team effort. It's going to take the government, businesses, and yep, every single one of us working together. And that really brings us to our final thought. And this one's for you. Securing our future is going to require some brand new ideas, some fresh thinking. And you know what? The next billion idea could come from anywhere. It could even come from you. So that leaves me with one last question. What's one smart idea you have to help protect our home?